This is Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full-service intellectual property law firm, and you're listening to Passage to Profit, the show all about small businesses, entrepreneurs, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. And with us tonight, we have two special guests. One is Joyce Johnson, and for our executive spotlight, we have Alec Thompson. So lots of interesting stuff coming up.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I work at Gearhart Law, which sponsors Passage to Profit, but I'm not an attorney. I do marketing. And after we have our guests, we're going to have two incredible presentations on great products, which I love them both. We're going to have Evan Leaphart with Kitty Credit and Carolyn Egbelu with Health Enhanced Foods. So before we start with our guests and our presenters, we want to talk a little bit about intellectual property.
Sure. So what's first on the agenda for today?
Well, this is a trademark terror. So does everybody know who Snooki is? Snooki Paluzzi? Yeah,
I knew once, but I think I've forgotten. So who is she?
She had the Jersey Shore show. And a bunch of kids,
Jersey Shore,
young people hanging out at the Jersey Shore.
I feel like that was like eons ago, right?
She has a store in Madison, New Jersey now, which is the next town over from where we live. So.
Really? Have we been in there?
No.
No.
Not yet.
Well, I guess now we have a reason to go. So what's the scoop?
So she tried to get a trademark on her name, which you would think she's pretty famous and that's her name and everybody knows her as Snooki. And so she applied to the United States Patent and Trademark Office to get a trademark on Snooki.
And what happened?
Denied.
Why? Why would Snooki not get a trademark on her name?
Because they were worried that consumers might get her name confused with undersea cat. There's a children's book called Adventures of Snooki Under the Sea. A backwards cap-wearing cat named Snooki falls off a fishing boat and goes to a magical undersea world.
So the person who wrote this book doesn't have cats, right? Because like cats in water are like oil and vinegar.
But it actually won a 2004 American Graphic Design Award. But because that book was out there, and I guess they must have trademarked it, they thought there would be the risk of confusion. So they might have thought people would think Snooki had written the book or it was about her. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, confusing Snooki with a magical undersea cat, I'm just not seeing the confusion there, but it's the trademark office. They make these decisions in their own way.
So it just goes to show you never know. It's up to the USPTO. So.
That's right. And before, this is a lesson for us all. Snooki should have done a trademark search before adopting her name if she wanted a trademark. So, most people, when they're coming up with nicknames, don't do that, but I'm just tossing that in there as a possibility. She could have warded off if she had named herself Schnocky or something.
Right. Before you do any branding, you really need to do a trademark search and make sure that you have the rights to the name that you want to use in your brand.
But Schnocky is probably the name of a dog that flies in outer space, and somebody wrote a book about him, so Schnocky probably wouldn't work either.
Probably not. So let's get on to something a little more serious with intellectual property. So this one is yours.
What am I talking about today?
That huge patent infringement award by the courts.
The Cisco versus Centripetal. The really cool thing about this case is that the court awarded $3.3 billion for patent infringement. And that has
for a tech patent, which tech people say patents aren't important in tech.
Right. And so people know that Cisco is the sort of behind the scenes company that runs servers and they run software. And whether you know it or not, they're really running your life. They're in the background there, all the Google stuff, all the Amazon stuff, they're all on Cisco servers. So this is really the evil empire. But they apparently they had a security software product and they were infringing it for years and years and years. And the court awarded $2.2 billion for the infringement, which is just astronomical. I've never heard of a damages award that high.
Can I read in a patent case? Right. Can I read what the defense said? We are disappointed with the trial court's decision. Well, duh. Right. Given the substantial evidence of non-infringement, invalidity means they think the patents aren't any good, and that Cisco's innovations predate the patents by many years. We look forward to the federal court's review on appeal. Well, if they predated the patents, then why would the patent office give somebody a patent on something that was already out there? They wouldn't do that, right?
Well, you can do that. So without getting too technical, if they did it in the background and they never disclosed the software, and somebody else comes along with the same idea and decides to file a patent on it, the people who are hiding the idea in the background can get sued for patent infringement, even if they came up with the idea first. So without digging into all of the facts and details about what happened here, that part of it is a possibility. And what's interesting is that, of course, Cisco did not believe that the district court judge understood patent law and technology, which is sometimes the case. So if you file a patent law case in certain circuits, they have a judge that sort of specializes in intellectual property, and they tend to know more about IP than the other judges who are doing criminal law and contract law and all the other stuff. And then in these cases, they have experts that sort of distill the technical piece so that the judge and the jury can try to understand it a little bit better. So Cisco's claim that the district court didn't understand the law is probably true, but they try to fix it. Federal Circuit is a special court for hearing patent matters, and I guess we'll find out what happens next.
Well, it's on appeal, right? So they always appeal. Like,
yeah.
They can always appeal, but
yeah,
I just
put off paying that $2 billion as long as possible.
It just goes to show that intellectual property does have value. Patents can have a lot of value.
Yeah. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a huge company, intellectual property can be super valuable if it's done for the right things and in the right way. So.
And if you have any questions about anything that you have regarding intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, Richard can help you with that. He's been a patent attorney, patent and intellectual property attorney for almost 30 years. So
my unbiased endorsement here. Thank you very much. So moving on to our guest this evening, we're very pleased to have with us Joyce Johnson, who is a sales expert. And Joyce is an author, speaker, and sales champion and business coach. So welcome to the show, Joyce. We're very happy to have you here, and sell me something.
So, you're actually selling me something, intellectual property, because that's something that my team and I've been looking at very real time with some things that I've created. And, before posting it and things, we're always thinking, where should we go with it? Sure. And, and I've actually talked to an attorney on something recently that I created, and he said, well, they can't, you can have the trademark, what have you, on the actual photo that you're creating to explain what you're selling or communicating to your audience. However, they can still use the information behind it. So it's like, okay, well, just put it out there. At least my name is there. So thank you for the education. I'll probably be beeping you a little bit with my team as we are beginning to create some branding. But again, I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion, coach, and founder of Wise Sales Network. And I say everything begins with a sell. So whether I'm talking to my college babies and explaining to them how they can take their knowledge and transferable skills that they learn while they're in school and go into the sales profession, get a great job, begin earning great money and paying their student loans, or just getting off their parents' couch, right? Because I tell them, I say, when you go home after college, my brother always says he didn't have a room when he went back home from college. So excited to talk to the audience today about sales. As we all know, everything everything begins with a sell. Right. And that's what stimulus and stimulus packages and things are about right now during COVID-19, is being able to stimulate that economy, going out and buy something or sell something. And I think a lot of times with entrepreneurs, they, because I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, we love what we love, right? We love our art, things that we're passionate about. But then when we turn that passion into a business, we realize that we don't have that area of how to go sell it, how to create a sales team, how to manage a sales team, how to set goals and quotas in sales, and that aspect of the business. and really just selling yourself every day. Every day at the top of my to-do list is to go sell something. But when you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, sometimes that box doesn't get checked and you have to just keep putting it on that to-do list every day to go sell something.
So you make it a priority, and you advise entrepreneurs to make it a priority to at least make a couple of calls, reach out to some people, do something, do some marketing. That has to be a regular part of their day. Is that what you're suggesting?
Every day, every single day, and it's like any other to-do list. If the goal is to get to it. If you're not selling your product and service, we're far removed from that time where you build it and they will come, right? And that there's limited competition. The internet destroyed that limited competition many years ago, creating more millionaires and billionaires than anything. And so it's on the top of my to-do list for today. I have you guys on one half of the page and what I'm going to be doing with this. And then on the other side of the page, I always put a date at the top of the page. And on the other side of the page, it has sales, go sell something. Mr. Vaughn, my tax guy, because I'm overdue. and then all the other things that I need to accomplish. But yes, it's important to go sell yourself, your service in some way every day.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't realize until I was in corporate and kind of learning the landscape as a research scientist that the salespeople made a lot more money.
Yeah, that seems to happen.
But I was at Dow Chemical for a while, and I read the Dow book. And at one point in the book, the old man Dow, who's running this chemical company, they're coming up with innovations and consumer products, their sales dip. And so he has a meeting and he tells everybody, look, you go sell this. You tell people why they want our products and make them buy them. You go, otherwise we don't have a business, right?
Wow.
Otherwise we don't have a business, And one of the things I share with the college students, because I do a lot of college student mentoring and other individuals. I talked to an accountant, someone that was in accounting this week and lost their job during the COVID. I said, well, you have a great personality. You may want to consider sales, because in sales, there's always an industry or vertical segment within an organization where you can go sell. So being an accountant, you can go sell software. You understand what the procurement director that you're selling to, their language and what's important to them in the sale. So in the sales organization, as you said, that's where you're going to find a lot, in most cases, your money. If you don't, then there's something wrong with that organization. They just don't, keep going. But a lot of times, we talk about in corporate companies, the pie, performance, image, and exposure. You're going to get that in sales. So if you really have another goal of what you want to, a job you have your eyesight on for a company, the best way to get into that organization is through the sales department. And to be able to get that, once you're performing, have your right image and you're getting exposure throughout the company. I used to say many years ago when I was at AT&T, like, this is Hollywood and we're the stars. That's what happened in sales. You're bringing the money.
That's great.
So what do you think your best technique? Like, what gives you the most return?
Sales is a process. It's an absolute process. And I share all the time, you just got to get up, show up, and follow up every day. And that follow up and that constant follow up and being committed to follow up is going to be important, because sometimes they just don't need what you have or need it right then or what have you. But follow up is so important in the sales process. And also that first sale is getting that appointment. So you got to get the appointment first, or you got to get their attention first. And a lot of people tend to think that, oh, I'm just going to call this company and the CEO has time to talk to me in a few days. Like, yeah, not going to happen. So I've trained over the years, and this is something that I do. When I reach out to someone, I say, share with me 2 dates and times that work best for you. That way, a lot of old sales books, they'll say, give them 2 dates or times, right? Are you available Monday morning or Wednesday evening? And they can say, you know what, neither of those works for me. and it's all about keeping that funnel full. So it's okay if someone says, I'm not available until next month. Next month, you have time. You already know that you have a sale coming aboard, right? Or a long introduction. So follow up, and then just really showing value when you send out that request for that appointment, right? show them why it's important that they talk to you, or why you believe it's important that they talk to you. And then be respectful of their time by saying, share 2 dates and times with me that work best for you. It works all the time. And now that I have my Calendly link, I also include that in there. And, if you like to go ahead and schedule it yourself, get on my calendar. But if not, just share these dates and times with me, and I'll book the appointment. I'll do the work.
I love Calendly. I have a Calendly link too. Right.
So what is the Calendly link anyway?
It's a link where you go in and you have a calendar, right? You create a virtual calendar for yourself, and you can actually say, I'm available during these times of the day on these particular days. And then you and I want to meet. I send you that link, and you go to my calendar and say, oh, Joyce is available from 9:30 to 10 on Thursday morning. I'm available. Let me just go ahead and set that appointment. And it automatically sends me the appointment. And then we just connect on that day.
That sounds interesting, because I am a little familiar with the software through Elizabeth. And I wonder, if you're in a service business, whether it's better just to talk to the person and set up the appointment there on the phone, or to send them a Calendly link, which seems a little bit more impersonal, and you're asking the other person to sort of conform to your schedule. And being in the service business, I like to be available when my clients are available. So do you have any thoughts on that? That's kind of a debate that we've been having about how, is that really the best way to start off a relationship?
And you know what, you and I feel the same way about that, to be honest, right? I am that, connector, let's communicate, let's build that rapport type of individual. However, in those cases where we can't do that, that's where Calendly. So if you notice, when I get ready to book those meetings, I'm saying share 2 dates and times with me, and I'll send you an invite. But you have to understand, people are traveling where they work, from on, airplanes, right, trains, automobiles. And even now in the virtual space, we're so busy.
Right.
The virtual space, we're just so busy, but with our calendars, we're in front of these computers like all day. And so I also think it's something that I coach on quite a bit, is that it depends on the individual, right, that you're communicating with. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I think for me, I like that, let me hug the customer and set that appointment. I think that's a generational thing, right? You have, I share with the college students, you have 5 generations in the workplace.
Yeah, I'm sure my daughter would prefer to have a Calendly link.
Well, I do try to soften my Calendly by saying, would you mind using this? I really look forward to talking to you. And that usually works with people, because I think most people are so busy right now. Like you said, the virtual space is just crazy crowded. And my Calendly automatically sends the Zoom link. So it saves everybody a lot of back and forth in time. But I think it's just getting people over the hump, right, of making it a normal thing, like email, what you didn't used to be normal, right?
And again, knowing your audience a little bit, right? So I've been coaching for so many years that now, and another reason for Why Sales Network is that the college students I was coaching 20 years ago, they're millennials, they're the new business leaders. They do things a little different, they move a little different. And so I just sort of piggyback off of how I see their communication to be. I mean, you can even look at someone's LinkedIn page, and you can learn their communication style.
Oh, that's really good.
That's really interesting, and
that's a really good idea.
And it's good for old fogies like me, who just look at things the way we learned it, but actually observing what is the new way to do things is important. And I think you have to integrate that into your business plan, your sales plan.
You have to integrate. You have to know your audience. You have to understand the generations, the diversity in the generations, my mother's probably one of the most tech savvy baby boomers that I know. And, we regret teaching her some of those things, actually.
I am the marketing director for Gearhart Law. Richard and I actually work on the marketing together. And as such, and a lot of people are doing email marketing, I get, 10 emails a day saying, I can increase your leads. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, I know you can. I have people working on that for me. But if you were going to try to land a client using that? What would you do to stand out?
But no, can I even piggyback off of that? Is any of that stuff actually work? I mean, are there people that are really able to do that for a business? Because I'm in the same kind. Answer Elizabeth's question first. So,
is there a way to stand out, or should you just not even do that? To Richard's point, is that passe now?
I think there are some companies that can still generate leads for you, especially in that texting space, right? Because we don't do that. And, it's guaranteed that when they text people and they have these text lists that people, 100% of people open the text message, right? Oh. Now, are those people going to sell? But I receive, texts all the time now, whether it's about voting or events that's taking place. And when I get the text message, because I am just super busy, sometimes it's easier for me just to go and right then and there, hit that link and create a calendar or create a meeting or what have you for it. So again, there's different ways to approach business now. And so you can't be a catch-all. I tell people when you're selling, you can't be a catch-all, right? I'm going to let my PR team go sell me for whatever they're selling. I'm going to allow my website marketing people to sell me for what they're selling. But when it comes to my personal connection and selling, I maybe do things a little different, because of my generation. I'm going to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I'm going to show value. I'm going to ask for that connection. I'm going to ask for that meeting. I'm not going to sell them anything initially. It's going to be about making that connection and building that rapport.
You finished at the top, number one for 2 consecutive years, 2017 and 2018, in your sales role. Was that as sales director in global markets? Which role was that?
So the sales role in global markets, that was at AT&T. I was actually a national account manager where I was responsible for the corporate relationships. So a lot of oil and gas companies and energy companies in that base, I go to those key decision makers and build a strategy with them for their company, and then bring that in, close it with them, and push it out to the field and train the sellers. There may have been 200 sellers in the field that support me, depending on how many locations the customer had, and we execute then.
Well, that sounds like pretty darn good experience. And Joyce, how can people find you if they want to experience more of your talents?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. I think LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn is probably the only, and my personal Facebook, because my personal LinkedIn is probably the only platform that I truly manage on my own. So I'm always on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator for leads and things of that nature. www.imjoycejohnson.com. And then, of course, through our program, Y Sales Network, www.ysalesnetwork. And of course, I'm on all social channels at I Am Joyce Johnson, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
So you're really out there.
And I share this with entrepreneurs. And like I said, one last thing with entrepreneurs. On Friday is a great sales day, because as you know, you're winding down your day. You're not as busy. It's sort of the same for everyone else. So don't take off early. Don't leave early. Make those last few sales calls or those last few sales connections. So when I do my week at a glance on Y Sales Network, it always says on Fridays, ABC always be closing.
Well, that's great advice. And so we have to take a break now. We'll be right back with more Passage to Profit after this. Joyce, I hope you stay with us and help us ask other entrepreneurs on the show questions about their businesses. So we'll be right back after this message. Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest this evening, Joyce Johnson. And now it's time for our executive spotlight with Alec Thomas, and his company is called Riskcast. Welcome to the show, Alec, and please tell us what you're all about.
I appreciate it, and thanks for the invite. Riskcast is construction software. So we are software for project managers out on job sites, and we deliver to them real-time job cost and productivity information.
So could you work with my contractor next time? Because we actually did go through the construction process, and he really needed your software. What does it do that helps contractors?
Well, I guess the thing I can say is, what we do, it's first to understand construction, right? So for those really fast that aren't in the construction space, if you think about a job site, and if you're driving, maybe don't close your eyes, but if you're not driving, close your eyes and think about a job site. If you're listening to this, and think about all the people that are on a construction site when you walk by it, doing things, whether they're digging holes or running conduit or pouring concrete, whatever they might be doing. And then now open your eyes for a second. And you kind of, maybe if you pictured all those people, there's maybe hundreds of people on a job site. And all day long, for every 4 or 5 of them, there's somebody recording information. So in your construction project, there was somebody in charge, and they're recording information in books like these, and they're recording with pen and paper today.
Little yellow books, hardback yellow books.
I don't think our
hardback yellow books.
Yellow books.
They're recording information, and then they're taking that information back to a job trailer. And they're in their job trailer at the end of the day, and they're transferring it to timesheets, and they're transferring it to daily reports. Now we're talking commercial construction. So they're taking all this information and transferring it to other forms of paper. And that paper eventually goes back to a home office. Wow. Somewhere, long story short, 2 weeks later, that project manager gets a report back from the home office with their labor cost, maybe their production information, 2 weeks later. So they're managing millions of dollars.
That is so last millennium, and they're losing millions of dollars, you said.
They're managing millions of dollars with no information, no real-time information. So
makes
all
sense
we do,
to me.
Yeah, we digitize it. We didn't do anything fancy. Let's just get basic, and we digitize the front end.
That's great.
So with that digital information, we can bring in real-time job cost, real-time labor, real-time production, real-time equipment usage, and we capture it at the field level. So it's really a software that's built for crews and leads on project sites that then deliver information to project managers.
So how did you get people to adopt this software? Because it sounds like, people are going to be stuck using pencils and notebooks for a long time. How do you sell them on that?
So great question, Joyce. So it initially was a bit of an adventure for us to learn. We're replacing Excel and paper, right? So how do we do that best? The best way to replace Excel and paper, great digital iPad, things they've never seen before. We really got our foot in the door with one company, and then we used that one company to understand their buying and thought process, and we took our time there. Now how we do it is some smart PR, some smart marketing, and really simple tools. We didn't try to take people from out of the pool into the deep end. We walked them into the first step, and then we take them to the second step. And we really built a software that walks them through the process versus trying to immerse them immediately in AR goggles and all these things that they've never seen.
I have a quick question. What is the user experience like on the back end? So say you have somebody who's used to the whole pen and paper thing.
Yeah.
How they're using this software. How does it work?
So great question. I appreciate it. It's absolutely manual, right? I say this nasty word in a tech environment. It's an iPad or a computer or a phone now that has a grid format. So it looks and feels just like their time card that they're using today. And that was the point. The point was not to try to merge them to some new format that's, an app that they're never used to. Again, generationally, we're speaking about project managers who tend to be a little bit older, senior in the organization. So it looks and feels like their paper. On the back end, back in the office, now we have a mixed media. So we have some that our younger executives want to see real-time views. We can give them that. Others, they still want to see their report. They want to see the report they've seen for 30 years. It's got blue and red on it. It's got green somewhere else. And it has these boxes, and this box is this, and that box is that. And so we really build that report the way they're used to seeing it and let their team merge them into a live view. So it really is that evolution, that change management.
So Alec, how did you get this programming done? The reason I ask is that Richard tried to put an ERP, enterprise resource management system, in the law firm. And part of it was open source software and part of it was custom coded. And we never did actually get it finished the way that we wanted it. But it was supposed to do a very similar kind of process. I envisioned a client coming in and filling out all their own information on an iPad, and that going all the way through the system to the end. So there was never a retype or a mistake or anything, but we never got to that point. How did you get this done?
So again, another great question. And I'm going to say, I've been part of ERP implementations. They're no fun. Most of them are not successful, not because the software doesn't work. It has almost zero to do with the software working. The software works. It's the processes that people have in place and the willingness to understand how systems might work and process might need to change. So for us, I think the real differentiation for us has been my co-founder. So actually the visionary behind the software initially, Reggie Arachabla and I both worked at a construction company. Reggie was there for about 20 years, started like I did in the field, and then got a computer science degree. So he coded a solution that suited the environment we were used to. Joyce, this is where we weren't business savvy. We never went and looked at the market and figured out what it all meant. We just said, hey, we got a solution. We know this problem. Yes. And so
build
Reggie,
it and they'll come.
Exactly, right. So Reggie knew what he was doing and built a box big enough to be configurable, which was the real key in our industry and others, to be very configurable. Every municipality has a different set of rules. And so every construction project has a different set of permit rules. And there's all these things that layer on. And if you can't be configurable, you don't suit a whole company. You might suit one project. And so Reggie's vision to know that, to do that and build that in the code initially is really that differentiation. And then our knowing how to implement and deliver. We don't even call it implementation now. Implementation of your ERP brings back nightmares, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and Alec, I'm happy you said that about the implementation, because in sales, if I could say one thing for entrepreneurs, when you're selling, you have to closing the deal and getting a yes from the customer is one part of it. But I always say the deal isn't closed until the money's in the bank. So you have to have a really great implementation plan to make sure that what you've sold is executed on. And I think that's the gap a lot of time when companies are implementing these software solutions, is that there's not a really great implementation plan to get to the real closing of the deal, which is getting to the money.
It's called cash in advance.
Yeah, well, and we take away the implementation word now. I mean, it's part of it, but we call it delivery. And Joyce, to your point, delivery sounds like something Amazon does, right? This is going to be good, right? Implementation is very sterile software in our space, in our tech world. And so we're not implementing this heavy, sterile software. We're delivering something to you. We're delivering a solution. Part of it is implementing our software. The other part of it is working with your teams through change management.
Right. One of our mistakes was that we hired somebody who didn't really understand our business. Mm-hmm. I think, and we didn't communicate. That was our fault too, because we should have probably been better at communicating the business, although it is kind of hard to explain a law firm. But
ours especially is inexplicable sometimes.
But guys, also a great salesperson is going to pull those things out of you. It's their job to know your business. It's their job to understand your business.
Yeah, and I personally, I like the ERP system. It did take much longer than expected, and there's still modules that aren't complete, but the most important one is now working well, and it really did bring the benefits, because we used to do our invoicing the old-fashioned way, printing out every invoice, 600 invoices, making corrections on them and handing them off to somebody else. And that took 2 weeks of a full-time
and mailing them in envelopes with stamps.
And mailing them with envelopes.
And that cost a lot of money.
And when we were going through the implementation, gosh, what a nightmare. We had invoices printed out all over our dining room table. It was January on the weekend, and we're sitting here, Is
this one right?
But
picture that in a construction site, and those are time cards.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of them every week.
Yeah. And so, but we eventually now with the ERP implementation, it literally takes a day to do the invoices. They get sent out electronically to all the attorneys. The attorneys just click the ones that are approved. They send a little note back to the administrator for the ones that need some changes, and then they're all emailed out to our clients. And so even though it was a struggle, in the end, at least that piece has been worth it and been a big time saver. So I definitely get where Alec is coming from with the software, and building a building is way more complicated than sending out invoices.
So how are you selling this now? What is your sales strategy?
So we actually just hired a head of sales, which is exciting for me because it means I'm no longer doing it, Joyce. Right? So we have a great mentorship program through Newark Venture Partners, who we are really proud and happy to be connected to. And so we had some help. And then we hired a head of sales. We prospect, so we use email, but we research really companies that fit our market, our persona, and we prospect through email and through some outreach via LinkedIn. And then we really do some quick online demos. And our software really is pretty simple. So from that demo to a close for a mid-sized company, we're really a 60-day cycle for the average, $10, $20 million contractor.
Awesome.
That's great, Alec. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and congratulations on this great innovation. I'm not personally in construction, but if I were, I'd be beating a path to your door. And also, I think it's a good example of somebody taking an ordinary run-of-the-mill sort of daily problem, automating it, and turning it into a successful business, which is a big part of entrepreneurship. So thank you very much for joining us on this show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And where can people find you again?
They can find us at our website, riskcast.com, RISKCAST. They can also follow us on several social media channels. We do have Joyce, a good PR person running for us, media and communications. So you can find us on LinkedIn, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, again, riskcast.com.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for coming. There'll be more Passage to Profit right after this message, so stay tuned.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest, Joyce Johnson, Queen of Sales, and our executive spotlight, Alec Thompson, dragging the construction industry into the new millennium. And now
kicking and screaming, maybe,
yes.
but he's going to get there.
And if you missed their presentations, really, the podcast is out tomorrow. You should go back and listen, because these guys are not only entertaining and nice to talk to, but really valuable information they imparted.
Absolutely.
And now we have Kenya Gibson, our iHeartMedia maven, with her segment Power Move. Hey, Kenya.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
Good. So I'm really excited today. I get to talk about one of our friends to iHeart, Damon John. So as everyone, if you're on planet Earth, knows, Damon is like one of the leading entrepreneurs. He started a lot of different companies. He's on Shark Tank, all of those things. He's been a great mentor. And one of the things that he's doing in the month of October is he's launching the first Black Entrepreneurs Day to inspire Black business owners to persevere. One of his platforms or his mantras for this is let's build instead of burn. And one of the reasons why he's going into the marketplace with this is he really wants to empower a lot of the businesses that have been shut down due to COVID. Over 40% of Black-owned businesses have been affected due to the pandemic. So he really wants to just create a platform and a day of inspiration and really, allow for change in these underdeserved business communities. So he's partnering with Chase for this inaugural event that's coming up on October 24th. He's going to bring together business leaders from BET. He's got Shaquille O'Neal involved, LL Cool J, Gabrielle Union, Jamie Foxx, and he's got some investors like Backstage Capital coming on board, and they all are coming together to create some content and give inspiration to any kind of entrepreneur. I think we all can get something from a day like this. So super excited to hear more coming from Shark Tank's own Damon John.
So how would people sign up to go to it?
Well, you can follow him on Instagram. It looks like they have a Facebook page. Okay. So definitely on social media, there should be some information there. The article is actually in Forbes. That's how I found out about it. So if you Google Damon John Forbes, it'll come up and all the information's there, and it gives you a whole outline of what the day is going to be involved. Chance the Rapper is going to be involved, and it's really going to be like a big block party online, and they're really going to have a good time with this. So make sure that you check it out on October 24th. And that was Power Move for today.
Oh, I believe I saw something with Damien saying that they're going to be giving out $25,000 grants.
Yeah, to 7 people.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Wow. So it's worth going and finding out more about this.
People will definitely tune in then for that.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And you know, I think it's really timely and culturally smart to do this right now because we've all been in the COVID doldrums for so long. And now is a great time to do something to lift people's spirits a little bit. That it seems like the media is just so full of controversy and acrimony. Damon really stands out by doing something so positive. So kudos to him. Damon,
he's a good guy. Well, he's a very good guy. Well, you guys got to meet him. We did an event with him last year at our iHeart headquarters. So if anybody should be doing this or be doing this in a great way, it's definitely him.
I get to talk a little bit about my new venture. Well, it's not so new anymore. I launched it at the
It just feels new. It feels fresh every day.
Feels new because it's hard to make progress when you're doing it all yourself, but I'm not so much anymore. So I started an online video directory for small businesses. So Caroline has done an interview with me and Kenya's done an interview with me. So I interview small business owners and basically ask them what makes them special and different. And then we have a conversation about why people should want to work with them and what they offer and who their clients, et cetera. 10, 15-minute videos usually. And then I have a website and a YouTube channel where I post these videos with their descriptions. And I am trying to get up to a critical number before I actually start advertising to the public to come and find people and hire them from these videos on the site. So it's a directory. So there may be 5 business coaches, but you know what? Everybody does it different. It's amazing. And so I'm getting to that critical mass now. I'm having so much fun doing it. The people I'm interviewing are fantastic. And so I hope to be promoting it eventually on iHeartRadio, but all over the place. I was thinking I'd use TikTok, but I don't know. I don't know right now. So anyway, still interviewing people. Oh, one thing I do want to say about sales, since we have Joyce here. I met this woman and I joined her lunch club and she is like my own personal sales rep. Like she is telling everybody to come and do an interview with me. It's awesome.
Yeah, she's a champion.
She's a spark plug.
Yeah.
So
we need referrals and sales.
Yeah. That's
referrals.
That's great. And video is where it's at, right? If you're not on video now, you're nowhere, right? So check out Fireside Directory and you'll be thrilled and you'll be on video and it'll help you with your business.
Yes. So enough about me. So I am excited to introduce Evan Leaphart. I love your product. I mean, any parent should just go crazy over this. So you've got 2 minutes to tell us all about it and then we'll have a conversation. So let's hear.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Evan Leaphart and I am the founder of Kitty Credit. Kitty Credit is a mobile chore tracking app that teaches kids about credit. So the premise of the app is the better a kid does their chores, the better their quote unquote credit score, right? So think of like a missed chore, like a missed payment. The longer you've had a chore, it's like the longer you've had a credit card, et cetera, et cetera. And based on how you do those chores on a weekly basis, that determines your score and you can use that to redeem rewards. So anytime you say, hey, mom, can I get this? Hey, dad, can I get this? Think of that like an inquiry. When we launched our public beta last year, it was intended for kids ages 4 to 12. And we just expected to have a couple hundred families using it. Turned out to be a couple thousand. We're featured on Forbes, Bankrate, CNBC, Now This, and some other outlets. And recently formed a partnership with Equifax Foundation. So now we're looking to expand the learning to teens, and we have a 2.0 version coming out in the next 2 to 3 months.
Wow, that's fantastic. So it must work, right? If kids are actually doing their chores, this must work, right?
We've had over 45,000 chores completed in the app total.
I could have seen my kids getting competitive. Maybe my daughter, not so much, but my son would have been so competitive with this. Like the whole house would have been clean in an hour.
I'm not sure any reward would have gotten our daughter to do chores.
And it seems like children are subliminally learning about credit at the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is create that aha moment, right? So when you think like, oh, I missed a payment, man, this is like when I didn't clean my room. Or like, oh, I've had this chore for a whole year now and it's been better for my score. It's like we want people to really understand the mechanics of a FICO score, not just like necessarily the number, because you can have solid financial habits, but do something as simple as close that Amex you've had for 10 years And now the age of your accounts is like depleted significantly and you don't understand why your score dropped. So that's really what it's about. And we want to like kind of go deeper into it. So in our upcoming version, there'll be a lot more learnings. So that way, when somebody turns 18, there's a twofold approach. Now you have a very credit conscious consumer at 18 years old, but then also that's a value to a potential financial institution or a creditor to say, look, this is somebody that we're not just slapping a card and then might max out in a year and then is in a decade of debt. They can actually like understand this and be a good customer for a long time.
That was me at 16 years old with my first Macy's card that had a $200 limit, and I didn't even leave the store before it was
all gone.
for at least 5 years after.
So how are you selling this?
We've changed our business model a bit. At first, it was just essentially direct to consumer, but now we're making it a B2B approach where we're working with organizations. So like I said, we have Equifax Foundation. There's a couple other partnerships that we have going on now. I can't fully mention them, but where we're essentially like, it'll allow us to reach a larger audience and get it into the hands of the people that need it, right? So our target is like families below the poverty line, to essentially say to them, look, if we can educate them earlier, it's not just about, hey, we're helping, we're trying to achieve economic inclusion, economic equality here. Like it has a real tangible benefit for a business too. It's a whole new audience if you can actually increase the credit scores of a very large community. So that's really the goal.
Evan, do you have a background in credit? Because it sounds like you know an awful lot about it.
I do. So my background is I destroyed it when I was younger. And I understood everything.
That's a good one.
100%. So I understood slowly what it took to get it back. So it was like every single component. I was like, oh, so this does this, this does this. And then I just became a makeshift teacher about it. And then I've mentored youth for the past 5 years. So it was like, it just kind of felt like a good timing to do it. I've had the idea in my head for 8 to 9 years. So to actually be doing it now and have families using it it's really
Must
cool.
be mind-blowing. Yeah.
You said about being a teacher of it, but I'm just thinking in my mind, how wonderful would it be to have this in the virtual learning space now in the school districts, and kids can kind of check off on their homework and virtual assignments, learn about credit at the same time.
So that's actually part of what we're working on is so using it as a classroom task management tool too. So we're running a pilot here in South Florida in the upcoming months. And what we're also doing is all the content that we're building, we're creating it out, and we want to be able to license it and then sell it to different school districts, like for their curriculum.
That's really great.
You have to start them early.
Yeah, you create this awareness of cause and effect that is brilliant at an age where people are now, again, adopting tech so early. That cause and effect are going to empower them so early. That congrats. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, it's easily accessible for the cost of the app. So it's not an expensive tool. And what's interesting though is, Evan, you took a problem that you suffered through and you found a solution to it because you recognize that other people have the same issue. And you are obviously doing what a true entrepreneur does, which is, solve an important problem and, make life better for a lot of other people. And that's what we love about entrepreneurship.
So there's 3 different things that we're doing, right? So first, we're working with organizations, be it credit bureaus, financial institutions, to give them bulk user license to say, this is how much it will cost on an annual basis. How many users do you want to reach with this? We're providing a white labeled solution to these institutions as well. So then they can also plug in with different partners. So what we're also doing within the app is think like a Credit Karma for kids. So essentially we're offering different child-based financial products. So a child-based savings account, 529 programs. There's a lot of different debit card for kids programs that are doing really well right now.
These partnerships that you're making are fantastic. And I think for a tech product, especially, well, any product really, if you can make a high level partnership like that, it gives you the visibility, the credibility, and the money eventually, right?
To give you Joyce, you'll appreciate this story, just kind of like a very overlooked, because if I wasn't doing entrepreneurship, I've always been in sales. And the one thing that I did, my relationship with Equifax was a pure cold call. I was just woke up one morning and I went on Equifax.com and you know, you can like do submit a request. So I copied and pasted my executive summary, and it made it all the way up to the president of Equifax Foundation. And we kind of built a relationship from there. So you'd never know what happens, you know, and how these things come about. So
what a great story and lesson.
That's a great story, Evan. And what that just leads to one other thing. And I say in sales and sales and everything, whether I'm talking about interviewing, you have to ask and you shall. So you don't know what's going to happen, right? But you definitely have to ask. And part of closing is just asking.
I did want to add one thing too, in regards to what Kenny was saying about the Black Entrepreneurs Day, because it's amazing. And one thing I co-founded was the Black Men Talk Tech conference, which is blackmentalktech.com, where we're actually going to be going on earlier in the day, so 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So we're actually encouraging people to do that first and then transition into Black Entrepreneurs Day, which I think starts at 7.
blackmentalktech.com. So people go to that website, they can find out how to tune into you.
And then where can we find out more about your product? Your
Kitty Credit. So Kitty Credit, it's credit with a K, KIDDIE, credit, KREDIT.com. We just did a provisional patent, a couple of trademark filings and copyrights. So I know that speaks your language. So I'm very tuned in.
Go for it, man.
Hey, we're looking for you to get that $3 billion verdict.
Hope so.
So you're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart on WOR 710. We'll be right back. Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. And we have had just like the greatest show so far. And we still have one more person to present, which I have spoken to her before, and I know she's going to be fabulous. So if you're just tuning in, our podcast comes out tomorrow. Look for the podcast. You can find us on our YouTube channel if you want to see what we all look like. And right now, I would love to introduce Carolyn Egbelu, who has wonderful baking products if you like to bake, which I love to, but it's kind of dangerous. But Carolyn, tell us about what you have.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm already all pumped up here. We are Caroline Egbelu, founder and the managing director of Health Enhanced Foods. We are located in Rockaway, New Jersey. Now, everyone is going tech. We're getting people back to the old-fashioned way. Health Enhanced Foods is a specialty flour company, like in baking, and we manufacture and package nourishing flour blends to serve the health-conscious consumer. That includes people that have special dietary needs, people who are getting well after being sick, people who are living with diabetes, people who are gluten intolerant, potassium intolerant, food sensitivity. We just want them to have pancake the way they like it. So our business started, I have to say, way back when we lived in when we lived in Pennsylvania, and I learned to bake bread. And I have been baking for over 30 years. In fact, I have never purchased bread in my household for over 30 years. I grind my own flour, I bake my own bread, and I wake up, I bake, I'm sad, I bake. And when we moved down here 7 years ago, it just seemed like every time we move, we have to find something new. And that was how I decided to start Health Enhanced Foods. Our goal is to first make baking fun again. A lot of people think they can't bake, but we have been trying to encourage people to bake, make it easy. Not just baking, but wholesome baking. We're going back to the way things used to be in those days when your great-grandmother used to take her flour to the mill and then she'll bake her bread. Except that in this day and age, you don't have to do it by hand. We are making it easier so you can have more control over what you consume. We know that flour, bakery products, they are a major part of the American diet. People diet, they have vegetables, but the main food has something to do with flour. And so our job is to provide a nourishing flour and to make it fun pancakes, waffles, bread, pasta. You can do that. The other portion of what we love is that we know that in this day and age, health dictates diet. We have many people who are going to the supermarkets and can no longer find what to eat. If you're diabetic, you're going to the shelf and you're looking and you can't find it. If you're on dialysis, you have trouble finding what you should eat because now diet, like I said, dictates health dictates diet. So what we're doing is to create blends using American grains and nuts and seeds, bring them together in the way nature has it with no additives, and you can actually have the food you need. Now, COVID has made it easier for us, that it's easier for people to understand that they need to take control of what they eat. So we package our flour blends for different needs in different packs, ready to use, and we have and we'll be having videos to help people to bake. For example, I always think about this young mother who has a daughter, 7-year-old Jenny. Jenny suddenly got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And all of a sudden, the young mother is thinking, Jenny has diabetes. Jenny loves pancakes. What am I going to feed Jenny now?
And then you have mixes, right? So you could just go order a pancake mix and stir in some water or whatever and make the pancakes for the little girl who can't eat a lot of different things.
We have different mixes for different people. For example, somebody with on dialysis, for example, cannot have mineral-rich flour. And much of the worst flour, the worst bread in town is what they would eat. But we are providing them not enriched flour that does not have the minerals that they don't need. So for different people, you choose the flour you want and you could make the pancake the way you like it.
So
Caroline, I'm on your site right now and I see the packages, and I went to the gluten-free and things. So I have a friend whose son has, he's limited on what he can eat and things like that. So I think that's awesome the way that it is, but I hope someone said just add water. That's the part I was looking at. I hope it's just add water because, I don't bake, so I got to add the eggs and the milk and everything, but yeah, just amazing products.
We're trying to make it as easy as possible. One of the, I also want to introduce people to American grains. I don't know about you, maybe because I have a degree in agricultural economics and farm management, maybe because I've been baking for over 30 years. As you can tell, I wasn't born here. This is an acquired pleasure for me, acquired hobby that is translating to profession. We have so much in nature, but the problem is that the bakery products that we have now are so overly refined, you will not believe what's in your baked products. If you knew, you will not taste them. They may taste good, but they are really not good for you if you know what they have to add into it. So what we're doing is go back. We're looking at each ingredient. If we have buckwheat, you have garbanzo beans, you have seeds. What do you put that so that you can have the right minerals, the right vitamins, so that you can have the right fiber, the right protein to feed your body? And when you do that, we will not experience a lot of fluctuations in blood sugar. And that's what the body needs. And that's what American farmers actually produce. And we actually try to tell you to get back to the basics. And that's what health enhanced foods.
Carolyn, you make a really good point about the chemicals that are in even regular flour. A lot of people don't realize flour is bleached, right? So it starts off a certain way, and the stuff that you see in the shells actually has chemicals in it. So what would you say? I know you gave us a lot of the benefits of your product, but even when you look at something that has a chemical in it that we are so used to seeing, what would you say are some better choices we can make when we're shopping in the store, and some alternatives that are there?
There's a study that's showing that there's an increase in people desiring natural ingredients. And there are many companies now that produce flours that are natural, are wholesome, with no additives. What we do, which is why people will like our product, is the fact that we we find the different ingredients and bring them together. So if you want pancakes, gluten-free pancakes, we have it, but we just don't have buckwheat, which is, in my view, the best gluten-free flour in the whole world. Many of you are more aware of quinoa than buckwheat. Buckwheat is what we have in abundance in North America. But the thing is that we have if you want gluten-free, low carb, the keto, where you have low carb, high fat, we have that in nature. And what we do is to bring these things together in a way that you feel nourished with what you eat.
So are your products in the store?
That's why I'm here. I have worked very hard. We have now 13 lines of products, our own brand. We are trademarked, and now we need to get it out. I'm talking to people in Canada. For some reason, it's easier for me to market in Canada than in New Jersey. I just don't have that contact yet.
That's great if your audience is Canada, right? The great thing about the internet and what it gives us is that we can have that broad audience. So if something doesn't adapt here in the US right away, who's to say it's not going to adapt somewhere else?
Right.
And so what I love about Bluebell ice cream, that's an ice cream here in Texas, is that they grow by demand. So unless you're in a city or a state that says we got to have this Bluebell because so many people went there, they'll send test trucks out there, but they're not going to just move into that market just to do it. Their business strategy has always maintained profitable because they only grow by demand. So once you get the demand in another market, then you focus on it.
Yeah, one of the things that we're trying to do is to hold classes to educate people on how to transform these grains and nourishing flours to wholesome meals. And I know that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is very interested in this, especially with the experience of COVID and the minority community. So we will be having some Zoom classes or for anyone to teach how to bake bread. As you know, I have been baking from scratch for over 30 years, and I would love to transfer that knowledge.
I am going to buy some of your flours. I really definitely want to try them. So I can find them on healthenhancedfoods.com.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Healthenhancedfoods.com.
You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710. We will be right back.
Wow, this was a truly fun show and very educational, wasn't it?
It was fun and it was great. Yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, this show will make you feel like all entrepreneurs have a great time all the time, which is kind of true. I mean, you're in charge of your own destiny, but we had a great time today.
Absolutely. So, Kenya and Joyce and Alec, do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience before we wrap things up?
I'll just kick it off. As I said before, ABC, always be closing. When you're in that entrepreneur space, don't lose focus that you have to go out and sell your business. And whether that's you touching it yourself in the beginning to go sell it, or if you're building a team to go sell it, and you're just putting together the plan for them to execute on. But then also it's important to inspect what you expect. So you always have to be able to check and adjust and inspect where you are in your sales process and meeting those goals, because the sales process and financially supports the company.
Yeah, one of the things I heard many years ago, I still hang on to, is you are in life based on the books you read and the people you associate with. What are you reading? And if you're not reading something, that's a tip right there. And then the folks that you're associating with, groups like this, networking, and if you want to be in that startup ecosystem, there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Great advice, great thoughts. Kenya?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm really grateful to be a part of this conversation today. There's a lot of creativity here on the show, and I love how everybody's kind of used their own inspiration to create products and solutions that are going to help a lot of people. So again, Evan, great, concept with the kitty credit. Carolyn, love your concept with the healthy eating and the whole foods. I think it's super important, especially as we kind of go into this new normal and people are learning about different ways to eat and live longer and be healthier. And Alec, I love your software and your platform. My husband needs to use it. He's a contractor and all he does is write on paper, but he's super organized. This could really help him take it over the next level for sure. And Joyce, it was great having you on here. I work in the sales world as well. So I have a lot of respect and admiration for people who in that field, because it's not easy, but you don't happen to make it, you make it happen. So that would be my advice.
So I'm going to do a quick recap here of everybody's website. So you can always go back and listen to the podcast if you want to hear people or see them on YouTube. But so Kenya Gibson is our iHeart Media Maven, and we do advertising on iHeart for the law firm, digital advertising through Kenya. And you can reach her at Kenya Gibson, Gibson with a P, Kenya Gibson at iHeartMedia.com.
And that's an endorsement, by the way, that we use iHeart. So
yes,
it's good stuff.
Right. They do a good job for us. Otherwise, they wouldn't get our money. And our guest was Joyce Johnson. You can find her on LinkedIn. She does a lot on LinkedIn or at her website, IamJoyceJohnson.com. And it's Joyce Johnson, just like you would expect it to be spelled, which is awesome. And if you want to learn anything about sales, she's a sales consultant. She's a top salesperson. She's the person that can help you catapult your company. So, really reach out to her if you need help with your sales. And then we had Alec Thompson he was our executive spotlight at RiskCast, 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 revolutionizing the construction industry. And,
yes, dragging those guys and gals into the 21st century.
And even if you're not a construction project manager and you're building a house or a building, like I would ask them, how are you keeping track of things? Like, are you using this RiskCast software? Because, we've done remodels, et cetera, and it's very frustrating getting any data on what's going on with the project and how are you on like change or like all that. So really everybody, I think, in the construction industry should be using this, and hopefully very soon. Yeah. So you can go to his website, riskcast.com. Then we had Evan Leaphart, revolutionizing the way we teach children about money and chores together.
Yeah, get more work out of your kids.
With Kiddie Credit, KIDDIE, If you didn't hear these people speak, they're on the podcast, if you're just tuning in for some reason, but this is going to be revolutionary, and he's already partnered with some big places. It's going to be all over the place. And then Carolyn Egbelu with Health Enhanced Foods, which it's kind of hard to explain quickly, but she has flours and mixes for baking where she's balanced the nutrients and she's removed a lot of the fillers and, extra chemicals and things that you really don't want, to try to really give you baking goods that are very healthful and really good for your body, and also address certain needs of people who are sick and can't eat certain things. So, and then of course, the one and only Richard Gearhart, who is at Gearhart Law, GEARHARTLAW.com. If you need any intellectual property advice for patents, trademarks, copyrights, if somebody sent you a nasty letter saying, quit using my trademark.
We'll get you out of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, he can help you with that.
So, well, thanks everybody. It's been a great show. And I just want to remind our listeners and our viewers to like us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart signing off. Passage to Profit on WOR 710, the voice of New York.